Hey everyone, it's Brock Patterson here, Reddick Brown Ford, and we're in Carlisle, Pennsylvania at the All Ford National Show. And with me today, President Shelby American. This is an American icon himself, one of the most humble automotive legends, Gary Patterson, President of Shelby American. Gary, thanks for being here.
Brock, it's an honor. It really is.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So listen, we're going to go over the 2024 Shelby Super Snake Mustang with Gary. So my first question to him is, this looks like one of the best versions or iterations of the Super Snake Mustang. Gary, what was the genesis of this project?
Yeah, so Brock, you're exactly right. We've kind of grown up with this whole thing over time. In '67, a Super Snake was actually kind of a GT500, but what made it super was you had basically a competition 427 engine in it instead of the 428 with 2.4s. So it was actually used for tire testing and kind of the next step above. And so when we came out with the Super Snake again in '07, right, virtually 40 years later, that car was also a Super Snake. So when the GT500 came out in '07, licensed by Shelby to Ford, it was an amazing car. It had 500 horsepower, and everybody's like, well, what are you going to do with that? Well, okay, so we put a bigger supercharger on it. We made 725 horsepower, and we did wheels and tires and brakes and suspension, and we made this thing so that, from 50 yards away, you knew you were looking at a Shelby, and you knew you were looking at something special, right? So that car has evolved over time, right? So, since '07, we keep kind of up in the ante and, okay, what can we do to make it more special, better, and this is that car. So let's walk around this thing and talk about, what is different in content with this car versus all the other Mustangs you'll see, because this is Carlisle, Pennsylvania, right?
Correct.
They'll have 3,500 cars here probably today.
Right.
Beautiful weather. I know they set a record here a couple of years ago. We had over 500 Shelbys here.
Oh, wow.
And we
Nice.
had, which also set a record for anyone, brand or club and stuff like that. And, but 3,550 some cars here at Carlisle. So it was the biggest event they've ever had for cars here in the fairgrounds, which was great.
Wow.
But that being said, so I think this will be remarkable. But as you can see, a lot of people modify Mustangs and trucks and things like that. But when it comes to high performance Mustangs, what's going to take the S650 Mustang and take it to that next level? That's just like knock your socks off, right? So we changed a lot of the content in this car. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So eye test. So the first thing we notice nowadays when buyers are shopping for new vehicles, they're looking for that eye test. So what stands out, if you're looking at this front quarter, what stands out for you for the eye test?
Okay, so you're exactly right. So when we started to, design this particular car, we sat down as a team and said, okay, what do we want to do with this S650 that goes, yeah, that's really a nice car, but, right? Let's just take that to the next level. So let's look at this car. Right from the front three-quarter view, you see a lot of eye candy right away. But we don't want to just change, our objective wasn't just to change the look of the car, we wanted to also change the function of the car and make sure that if we put a scoop on or something like that, it had a function behind it, right? So that's what we did with this. So if you look at a stock S650 and then you look at this, the first thing you see is an even more aggressive front end, right? What you see here is a very aggressive front end with a lot of airflow pieces in it, right? So it's got that Shelby design look with the kind of the angled front end and so forth. So when you look at that car, you're looking at a Shelby even from 50 yards away and not somebody else's. So if you also look, there's room for coolers in there. There's air ducts in here where air intakes, you've got two air intakes now, one on each side underneath the hood. So you look at that. You look at the front splitter and diffuser and those kind of things. So that also helps keep the car on the ground, and it keeps that air moving where it needs to be. And it also prevents the lift. When you look at this hood, the same kind of thing. So this is our own carbon fiber hood, right? This is our own front fascia, our own grille, this is all new Shelby stuff. But the Ford guys helped us with this as well. This was kind of a design kind of thing that we had from the 60s. If you think about it, Brock, you close your eyes, guys, and go, okay, what was cool about the Shelbys? What made them win in the 60s? It was air through the nose, comes through the radiator, back out over the hood, like a GT40 or a Daytona coupe.
Right.
So we beat Ferrari in 1965 and won the world championship with a Daytona coupe, basically with a car that Peter Brock designed that had air coming in through the nose, going through the radiator, out over the hood. You're seeing a lot of those designs like that the last 10 years, where they've been the last 60 years, right?
Right.
We've been
right.
there, right? But now it's coming to Mustang as well. We also got some hints from the Ford engineers, and we said, okay, you guys have a wind tunnel, we don't, right? Or they have at least the access to the wind tunnel. We say, okay, if you were to design this, you know, a little bit more aggressively, you know, for whatever reason you didn't, where would you put extra vents? And they said, we put them in this area right here, right? So this would be where we would put it. So this is the right location aerodynamically, but it's also very functional, okay? So, and it's the Shelby design. So it's a Shelby design, but the Ford guys helped us with that and said, okay, we put them right here, which we think is great. So when you look at this hood, yeah, you see it, right?
Yeah,
it's badass right out of the gate, but it's also very functional. So it's not just a pretty face, it's not just a sticker, it's functional. The other things that you have is like these fenders. Oh, by the way, these are our fenders too. So we designed not just a hood, not just a front fascia, a grille and all that, but we went with the carbon fiber front fenders that are also wider. So we could make this a square car. What we mean by that is we put 305s all the way around, right? So you can, you know, so you've got that. But you've also got some venting here in the fender, and you've got some, you know, exit here. So these fenders not only look great, but they've got a function for bigger tires, bigger wheels, and airflow. So they look badass, but they also have a function. And what else they're doing is they're showing, the other things you see right here are these wheels. These are Shelby design wheels. They're magnesium, okay? What is magnesium? Why is that so important when you look at a performance car? It's rotational mass, it's unsprung weight. So it's not just weight, it's those two key components when you're talking about wheels that really set this car apart and make it, again, much more functional. If you also look a little bit, we've got the stock Brembo brake calipers, but we've got a different rotor on it that we partner with Willwood on, and then we've got a brand new snake logo that we designed just within this last year. Makes that snake look a little bit more aggressive, right? Yeah. So that's what I see when I first look at this thing, and when we designed it from a front three-quarter view, which is critical. Man, you look at that, and then you look, okay, we keep going down the line, right? You got these side rockers. Again, very functional, but it also sets the car apart, right? Yeah.
So you talk about, we've got a lot of carbon fiber components. We've got the new magnesium wheel. So I'm assuming we're going to have lighter weight. We're going to have increased acceleration and cornering, right? What's that going to do for the driver? What is the driver experience going to be like when they get behind the wheel?
Well, you know, I think that's a great question. So why don't we look under the hood and talk a little bit more about that, right? Let's look at the meat and potatoes behind this thing right while we're here. Come on, there it is. So very lightweight. So we talked a little bit about, before we get too far into the engine, let's talk a little bit about this hood. So when you look at this hood, these are all the vents. And you're like, well, gee, Brock, I'm going to drive this car every day. If it rains or whatever, you know, this is going to cause a problem in here. We got rain trays that go here, so if you're driving it most of the time, you put those on, right? And then you can drive the car in weather.
Sure.
But if you're going to go to the track, if you're going to go to the car show or something like that, you take those things out.
Right.
And that's where you get the functionality of it. So let's look a little bit more here in the engine compartment, because you ask about the driving experience. Yes. Well, a lot of it has to do with what's right here. So you got the two air intakes just like normal, and this is also, you know, we keep the hats on, we've got all the emissions compliance stuff, so it'll be 50 state legal, runs on pump gas, you know, so all those kind of things, and compliance is good. But with an engine, you know, 5-liter engine. What are you going to do to make that work? Well, the Coyote engine is probably one of the best engines out there for, you know, air in, air out. When you think about an engine, it's an air pump, right? Yeah. More air in you get, more power you make, right? Air, fuel, power. That's what it makes. So this baby right here, 5-liter engine, 3-liter supercharger, twin screw, so it gives you instant throttle response. There's no lag, there's no waiting. You get it right now, right? But in addition to that, compared to many other superchargers, this one has a much larger surface area. So with the intercooler, it gives you much more repeatable performance. So if you're out on a road course, it's not going to heat soak nearly as quickly as most, because you've got a lot of surface area in there with that supercharger. You got a large throttle body that feeds that air in there. Okay, and then so that makes over 830 horsepower. Right? And then we've got, it's an animal. It's just, you know, it's just, and you think, okay, well, it's just a number. Well, then you get it behind the seat, and it's more than a number. This thing is real. Right? So you got to be careful with it. Because, you know, as good as these Michelins are that we put on this car, the Michelin 4S's, if it's a cold day, just be careful. Right? Cold day, cold tires, cold pavement. You know, we get some of that here in Pennsylvania. You got to be real careful with it because it'll come out from under you. Serial number. So this has a unique CSM Shelby serial number. Okay? So this will say 24 Super Snake, so it'll be 24 SS, and then 3 zeros, and this one happens to be 2P. So it was the second prototype that we built. And that would go in the Shelby Registry, and it would be tied to the Ford VIN number that's part of the car's manufacturer to begin with. So that way that protects that investment that you've just made in this Super Snake. Then we also have, while we're standing right here, we have the adjustable caster camber plates. So from the factory, caster and camber are not adjustable, okay? So caster pulls that suspension back, so when your wheels turn, it actually leans this way, and camber is this, right? So this gives you adjustability here for that front suspension. So you can also tailor that way depending on your driving. If you're going to drive it all the time on the street, you're going to set it up one way that's good on tire wear and it tracks nice and all that. If you're going to do like nothing but autocross with the car for a day, you adjust those things. You might want to put a little toe out in it. So then the car becomes more darty, but the turn-in is more crisp, and you add that negative camber. So if you could look at the guys that do, you know, the severe autocross, road course work, you know, maybe a little less negative camber for road course, but still more negative camber, right? So those kind of things are now adjustable. And we did talk a little bit briefly about the cooler systems with the larger radiator, intercooler, and so forth that you need with the supercharger, the engine caps here. And then we also talked a little bit about the serial number plate inside the car that you get right in front of the passenger. So if you look over here, that same serial number is there. Okay, once again, protecting the investment. Right? So even at higher speeds.
Great. So overall driving experience is new age here for this new S650, and then design elements, right? We're talking about, you all did not leave anything left to anybody to interpret. Your rear end design here, ducktail design, carbon fiber diffuser.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the rear end.
Yeah, we'll like it there.
So overall design here. So we're talking about the front end design. Now this rear end, I think this is where, when it came off the trailer, when it visited our store, obviously, you know, it was kind of a oh wow moment. Describe this rear end.
Yeah, so we looked at the original design of the S650 and we went, what do we do with this, right? We've got to make this just badass. So we designed the wing, and we designed the wing in such a way that not only is it very functional, you know, to keep the rear end planted, because now you got the front end planted, now you keep the rear end planted, now you get the whole car planted, right? So this wing does that. So it's got, it's actually raised a little bit here, which gives you a little bit more catching of the air coming over the roof, but it's also the way it's attached. You've got it on the deck lid here, not on this rear panel.
Right.
Because if you put it on the rear panel, then it tends to want to pull it.
Sure.
Like this. So we designed it so that doesn't happen, right? So it's got a nice ductile spoiler. You got the Shelby, you know, branding here, which tells you exactly what you're looking at if you don't know already, right? Like I said, 50 yards away, you can tell this thing, right?
Absolutely.
So you've got that, which clearly sets this car apart. Same in the convertible right over there. Still has this. You just don't have the big rear wing for that. But, and then the rear diffuser. It needed to look badass, but it also had to be very functional.
Right.
So when you look at those kind of things, you got that that function of air, you've got the wing, you got the whole car planted now, so at higher speeds it's very much more stable. Then you got these 5-inch double dual exhausts, right? We worked again with Borla. Borla's been a great friend of Shelby for many, many years. You know, Alex and Carol were good friends, and you know, I knew Alex real well, and David's taken over with the company now, but in a lease. But that exhaust just has that sound, and we're going to start this car in a minute because you got to hear this thing, right? But the other stuff that you know, so that's the rear of the car, but some of the stuff you don't see is also very important, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. So like, you look at this, you may not notice also these hardened wheel studs.
Yes.
Right? When we were out developing our previous generation Super Snakes, we were actually at the track, you know, at the drag strip, because that's what we do. We were beating up on the Hellcat boys. They weren't too happy with us that day. But they actually won a race because the wheel fell off of the car.
Sure.
Because we were making so much power and we were hooking it up that it actually sheared the stock wheel studs. We're going, okay, we're not going to have that problem anymore. So this has hardened wheel studs, and the other things that we changed was the rear half shafts. They're rated for 1,500 horsepower. So there's a lot of stuff in this car that goes far beyond what you can see by the eye, and you know, stickers and little spoilers and stuff like that. This is a heavy contented car. Not that there's not a market for those that have, you know, some stickers and stuff like that, but with this one we wanted this to be truly a Super Snake, a set above, and that's what we've created.
So we've got the car planted and we've got all the power. We've got to get behind the wheel.
Well, we got to do that. In fact, let's take a look in the interior before we actually start this thing, and take a look at these seats. These seats have been reupholstered, right? Maybe we could just open that. And then you see the door sill plates. We got the and then you got you know, floor mats with Shelby brand on. We still have the plastic on it. You know, it's early prototype, but it's got like a snakeskin appearance to the seats.
And I noticed your stripes too.
That's right. That's right. So it's got kind of the Super Snake stripe theme. So that's a great item, man. And then, of course, the Shelby branding. And a lot of people think, well, I'll just recover my seats. Well, it's not just that easy anymore, right? We've got a side impact bag, right? Airbags in the side, so you have to have seats with the proper materials, with the proper stitching and everything, so that airbag continues to still deploy just like it would on a stock car. So you've got all your safety requirements, you got your emissions requirements. So this car, as badass as it is, it's still, you know, very compliant with all those things.
Wonderful, wonderful.
What do you think?
No, I love it. Yeah, let's fire it up.
All right. We got to get the key. It's got to get close enough. So let's see what we got. What do you think, Brock? Huh? So we wanted a sound that stirs your soul.
Good.
I think we've done it.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. So, Gary, the beautiful thing, we're going to start to see production starting
probably late June.
Late June, available at select Ford dealerships across the country, limited to 250
domestic cars.
250 domestic cars. And the great thing about this product, right, as a dealer and for you as a consumer or fan, there's a warranty included as well.
Yeah, 3 years, 36,000 miles.
And one of the great things about it, there's a certificate. It's listed in the official Shelby Registry, right? So a lot of things go into overall ownership of it, right? It's not just a car, right? This is a Shelby Mustang, right? Totally different.
Yeah, and so when you go, you know, years later, when you go to some of these auctions, you know, Bear Jackson and Meekum, and, you know, there's a host of others, and you look at the results, okay, that go back to the 60s or even some of the newer cars. You look at the results and you're like, wow, the top sellers, Shelby's always in there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Which is cool, right?
Yeah, special.
It's very special.
Very special, very special. And listen, so we've been with us here in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. We're with Gary Patterson. We've got one more question to ask. It's like asking, who's your favorite child? If you were to spec out your 2024 Shelby Super Snake Mustang, coupe or convertible?
Okay, so for us right now, we've got a really cool convertible. So we would get a coupe.
Okay.
We'd probably get this color.
Okay, rapid red.
Yeah, but we'd probably put black stripes.
Okay, black stripes.
So that's probably the difference that we would make. But before doing that, I would have to confer with my wife, of course, you know. But she's got a Highland Green 68 GT500 KR, so we might have to get a different color. I don't know yet.
Nice.
But
And
the good
manual,
thing is,
automatic.
Oh, I got to have a manual.
Exactly,
right?
we knew that answer.
We got to have a manual, and my wife drives, you know, manual. She drove one here, so
yeah, perfect.
So it's pretty cool.
Yes.
So yeah, we could do that. We like the manuals, but it's fun.
Yeah, so available in, you've got Atlas Blue, we've got Rapid Red, Race Red, Oxford White, Shadow Black, right?
Yeah.
And am I missing any? I think that's it, 6.
Yeah, anyway, but yeah, I mean, that's good.
Yeah, so limited color selection, limited to 200 available here domestically. This is one of the best product releases I've seen, period, and Shelby leveled it up in 2024. Gary, thanks for your time, my friend.
Thanks, man. Just 250 of these things domestically, and then a few for the overseas market, and that's for this model year. So then next year we'll be able to build some more.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it. Thanks for your time.
All right, thanks, guys.